My name is Philippe. You are listening Go Creative Show for On the Rocks.
Hey everyone, my name is Ben Consoli. I'm a director and owner of BC Media Productions. And this is the Go Creative Show, a podcast for filmmakers. So today we're talking to Philippe Lesueur. He is the director of photography of the new Apple TV Plus feature film, On the Rocks. And this is actually a collaboration with A24, which is one of my favorite movie studios, and Apple TV Plus, which I adore, as you guys all know. And it's an interesting conversation because Philippe, the whole film is shot in New York, daytime, nighttime, interior, exterior. And we talk a lot about just the challenges of shooting in New York. There's so much to it that a lot of us just wouldn't know unless we went through the experience. And also, things like how to make New York a character, how to bring a new perspective on it cinematically, because there's so many shows and films and movies that are shot there. How do you bring something unique to it? And of course, working with Bill Murray, Rashida Jones, Marlon Wayans, and directors Sofia Coppola. So there's so much to talk about. Let's dive right in because we have so much to talk to with the director of photography of On the Rocks, Philippe Lesueur. So I'm here with Philippe Lesueur, ASC and AFC. He's the director of photography for On the Rocks on Apple TV Plus. Philippe, I saw the film this morning and it's so good. I mean, it's got so much heart, so much warmth to it. It looks incredible. So congratulations on such a great film. Now, I know it was directed by Sofia Coppola, so I expect nothing less than greatness there. But this wasn't your first film with her, and I'd like to talk to you about kind of how you met, how you began your relationship with her, and what brought you to On the Rocks.
My first relationship with Sofia was probably 11 years ago, or probably more than that, 12 years ago. I was shooting with Wong Kar-wai and in China, and I received a call from my agent to shoot with Sofia and, in LA for a Dior commercial. And this call came from Sofia because she was working with Aris Avides for the last 10 years previously. And I met Aris long time ago also, and we started to become friends. And once Aris was in Paris, and we shot almost on the same stage. So we decided to take a picture together. And it was a Polaroid at this time. So I took a Polaroid and I kept for me. And I sent a copy to him. And when Sofia was in 2012 looking for a cinematographer because Aris was starting to be very sick, Aris didn't remember my name. And the only thing he remembered was the picture we took together. So he remembers that he has this picture in this office. So he has to have this picture and to find who was the guy with him on the picture.
Oh wow!
So Sofia reached me by that by Aris, I would say. So it was a great honor and a tremendous, lovely moment for such a talented man, I would say, and lost. Because he's probably was the best cinematographer at this time, and probably he still is the best cinematographer, I think. So that's the first time I met Sofia in 2012.
Now, we've got a question here from Jaden Marvel on Twitter, and he wants to know, how was it working with Sofia Coppola again after The Beguiled? Now, The Beguiled is a completely different looking film. It takes place at a different time period. It looks totally different. So what was that transition like from The Beguiled to On the Rocks?
It was very challenging. First, the tone is completely different. It was between a drama, period drama, 1900, and after a period movie in New York. So the feeling was completely different. The tone was completely different. So the approach has to be completely different. But I was struck by the sensibility of Sofia with the character. And I found that it's something very interesting to explore the journey of the woman and the boundary of this woman. So So that was my track, I would say, to have a different approach. And of course, you know that you are shooting in New York, and you can hear New York behind my back. So you know the feeling, especially as a foreigner. When you arrive in New York, the first thing you see in the city is that the beauty of it, but the stress of it, the landscape, the vertical landscape, and as a reference, the first thing you could remember as a cinematographer is probably Manhattan with Gordon Willis, and Woody Allen, that film shot in New York. So you're wondering how to shoot New York, for sure, how to shoot this woman's story and how to shoot New York, because New York is a big part of the story in this film.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there are so many films and TV shows that take place in New York, shot in New York. So, like, how do you bring your unique perspective on New York to this film?
But the reference for me, because I took a lot of pictures in New York before, so it was really the landscape. The question is always a question: how to shoot the verticality of New York when you shoot on the ground level. So that was the main question for me, because as soon as you put the camera down and you frame 185, and Manhattan when shot on CinemaScope is about even worse, but the beauty of Manhattan, it was fantastic. So that's the first question, and I found it was more interesting for us to shoot the steel, the metal, the urban feeling compared to the romantic feeling of Manhattan, of New York, overall in general. So discussion with Sofia, she did a mood board, I did a mood board on my side, and what was my feeling about it, and how to bring the story together with New York, that to avoid, in certain sense, the romance of it, to avoid almost the last Woody Allen movie, I would say. It's not because is that not great, it's just because the feeling was completely different.
It's interesting to me to hear you say that you are kind of avoiding the romance of Manhattan, because, I mean, there's quite a lot of romance in the film. So how did you come to that decision? And I guess, what does that mean to you?
As a foreigner, I didn't see the romance of it. And based on the story, I found it was more about the loneliness of this woman. And if you're thinking about all this type of story I've been writing before, the first thing is come to me is for probably Antonioni. And you think about La Notte, if you think about the Red Desert. So that was a feeling about, for me, for example, you start the story like the Red Desert, you see the contradiction and the boundary between, the architecture on the Red Desert, Antonioni movie, and the feeling of this woman. So I was looking for something like that.
Yeah, now hearing you say that, it does make a lot of sense. There is a lot of loneliness in the film, and in that main character, her name is Laura, I believe.
Yeah,
yes, played by Rashida Jones. So yeah, there is a lot of loneliness in that character. So that makes sense. But I want to talk a little bit more about something else you said about filming in New York, is the vertical nature of it. Like, how do you capture the height of New York, the vertical of New York on film?
So overcome you need to have a vision of the city by the high point of view, and by the loneliness of this person, by the scale of it. So if you mix a different shot between close together and the scale of the city, you start to give a sense of the loneliness of this person. I never approached this film as a comedy, I would say. And in look as a comedy, you knew that Bill, with a charming character, will bring something on it. But I didn't read that way. I found, even I was thinking, I didn't know Bill. I found that, he's going to be surprising. He's going to bring a lot of, different and a lot of happiness of it. And when you look the film closely, you notice that he's very attached to a daughter, and is completely different between Lost in Translation and On the Rocks. And that's something more unique and humanity on this approach to Rashida Jones in a certain way, I think. And I didn't see it's funny because the dialogue make it funny sometimes, and the character by Bill, but that's something very touching about him also. And in certain ways, they're also lonely on a different world.
I mean, clearly working with Bill Murray, you're going to get excellent performance no matter what. And he's going to kind of give you his personality, what you expect from Bill Murray, but also implant it into this character that he's playing. But is there, and part of what he brings is a lot of heart. Like his performance in this character, there's so much heart in there. And you really, despite his shortcomings as a person, as a father, you really love him. Like you feel for him when you watch this film.
Yes.
Obviously, a lot of that is in the performance and certainly in the directing. But what do you do as a cinematographer to bring that kind of warmth to a character?
I think it's more. The warmth. I think is coming from the director at first, and how she treat overall a story. If you notice, what I didn't notice necessarily when I watched a first movie, but working with her, that she liked to be with the character. She's never away from the character. It's very difficult for her on the scene to say, I'm going to start with a master shot. She avoiding that. She wants to be with the people. She wants to be inside the mind of the character. So they have no distanciation or no. They are never like. We are never pulled away from the scene. We are inside the scene always. So as soon as she starts a scene, she wants to be on the scene. So she tried to avoid all established shots, and that means at the end, the character, the approach of the character, are different. If you look really closely, the shot every time how she starts a scene, she's inside the scene. We never have great master shot with a lot of it. Very, 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 very rarely, because aware of my point of view, and I've been talking to Sofia on the pre-production because we talk about the script and we spend time reading the script and and I was asking to Sofia how you feel about this scene, how you see the scene, and sometimes she know exactly, and sometimes she want to see the actor on the set. Most of the time she say, I want to be with her, I want to be with Laura, and so the approach for Felix, Bill Murray, is the same. So the warmth come together by this way. If suddenly, you start to move your camera all around your character, you can be distracted of it. And she doesn't want that.
And I did notice that watching it. It almost feels like a play in a way where there's so much dialogue and you're really sitting in this moment with these characters. And it really didn't have those big establishing shots like you're mentioning. Very few large master shots. I was actually wondering if you shot them and then just decided not to use them, or was it the plan all the time? And it sounds like it was the plan all the time.
It was the plan of the time, yes. It was the plan of the time.
What does that mean to the viewer? Like, how does that change the experience to the viewer when you don't have those master shots?
I think you are completely with the character. So you are with the story. So you are not destroyed by the technique. Because the question, for example, if you have 10-page dialogue, when you have a scene like that, you have 10-page dialogue around the table, the first question is going to be, am I going to be bored or not when I'm looking at the scene? How many close-up, how many reverse, how many shots you need for that? 10 pages is a lot. So some director will say, oh, I'm going to put a round track around the table, or I'm going to have a maximum shot to be able to cut it if I want to. And she doesn't want to do that. So it's really a reflection about, for her, how you want to feel the character or not, and if you want to be distracted by the camera. It's a very small camera movement inside the film. And the big guy too, even the big guy is most of the time is static. But on that one, because it's a conflict for her, overall in general, to have a camera movement. She's wonder suddenly you see as soon you start the camera movement, you see the power of the director almost. I insist to. With one camera, always the camera was moving, so it's really a matter of decision, of a point of view. But for her, it's something very distracting or too insisting. You see, emotion of the character overall in general on a film are very subtle. There are very rarely emotion scenes. You see, for example, the scene at the end with Bill and with her husband. She tried to avoid cry. She tried to avoid fighting. She tried to avoid because she don't like it. So that's something she always want to keep on the line in a certain way. So that means same for the camera. So the camera doesn't push.
What is the experience like working with such a, working with a director like Sofia Coppola? I mean, she has such a clear and distinct vision to her films, and it sounds like she's very much involved in all aspects of it. What is that experience like for you as a director of photography?
In certain ways, she's very involved with it, but she gives a lot of freedom of it. So, for example, on the pre-production, of course, we decide about location and the look of it. But the look of it came by me to do a lot of camera tests, choosing the lens, choosing the film stock because we shot on film, and that give a look to the film. And after we agree overall in general how to shoot the film, she accept proposition. She said, no, I don't feel it, or this is a good idea. But most of the time when you're on the set, you discover after reading the scene, you need to bring the actor on the set to see how they move it. What do they want to do? Where I should put the camera, and how many shots I need to do? What would be the coverage? And that is become a discussion overall in general.
Yeah. Talk to me about working with Bill Murray. This was your first time working with him.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the experience like? What's he like?
Oh, he's very sweet. He's a very nice. He's full of surprise, and he brings to the set something very light in certain way. He's very concentrated, but he brings something very. The energy is is very beautiful, and he brings surprise to the camera, and that's very light for a cinematographer to see that. So the beauty of it, I would say.
So he brings a lightness to the set, a silliness to the set, something. I also heard a story about him shutting down production because he got a little bit too excited about driving that car.
That's correct.
What happened? What's the story?
I forgot that. Yes. Yeah. No, but I don't know exactly, but I think it was because when we did the chase, we have only like 6 hours to shoot it, something like that. 6 hours in the middle of at night, and at one point, the police give you 4 blocks. And they give you 4 blocks. You go 5 blocks, that become a problem for them. And he didn't stop. He was driving the car, he didn't stop. And the car was very noisy. It was old car, so he didn't stop. So at one point, the police said, it's enough, done. You are done.
Oh, no.
And we are still to shoot. It was still night, we were still to do shot. But the police said, we are done. That's it.
So they gave you 4 blocks. That's all you had to work with for the entire car chase scene?
I think so. Yeah, 4 or 5 blocks. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was very small. Yes.
Yeah, I'm now I don't know. I mean, is that less, more? How does that compare to other films?
No, it was very difficult to shoot on that. Essentially because the short of time we have to shoot all this scene.
Yeah.
Because you want to bring a lot of coverage, and it was very difficult to shoot that way. Yes.
Aside from the amount of time you had, what were some of the other challenges you had for that scene?
The challenge was the good thing, Bill is a very good driver. So it was easy for him to be around these stunt people, to move the car, to go fast, to accelerate, and to be funny. So that was a good surprise. But Sofia bring her brother to help her to shoot the scene. So we figure out with Roman and Sofia where to put the camera, how many camera, and Roman have a good idea to bring from California the biscuit rig. So
what is that? What is a biscuit rig?
The biscuit rig is instead to have a process trailer, or is always very slow, or you put the camera on the truck and it's very slow. So the biscuit rig is based on you put the car on a small chassis, if I remember, and somebody else is driving the car. So you feel that Bill is driving the car, so they can go very fast and accelerate and decelerate, and you just have a car mount on the car, and you can have the precision driver on the front or on the back of and very quick. You can change the position. So it's an amazing toy. So to shoot with, that helped a lot to have these toys compared to a process trailer.
Yeah, especially with so few hours to do this.
Yes. Because it was always a discussion, because we shot the film on film and not on digital. So it's always a question of time, and shooting on film requires in general more light and everything. So I did a lot of tests for her to say what would be the best solution. And I ended up to say, I think it's more interesting for the film to keep shooting on film and not on digital, and even to pull the film stock 50-19 to 250 ISO to have less grain, more detail on the black and a highlight, and to shoot on film with little light. And of course, with this rig and everything, we could go faster at the end.
Shooting on film is, we don't hear a lot. We have a lot of cinematographers on the show, and most of the time you're hearing Alexa, you're hearing Sony Venice. You don't hear a lot of films and TV shows now being shot on film. How did you come to that decision?
Because I love film, of course, but Sofia wanted to shoot on film.
So it was her decision?
Yes, it was her decision, yes. So there was no discussion about it. So I did some tests with the Venice and compared to film, but I said to myself, so we don't need to see the night like a daylight. I don't need to see that.
Yeah.
So film, the city is brighter than before. They changed all also sodium vapor by LED lights. So the city is brighter overall in general. So after a test, I said, no, I think it's more interesting to keep shooting on film.
Yeah. So she came to you and said, I want to shoot this on film, but you did test the Venice just to see.
Just because I was curious. I was okay. Yeah. So what do that? Because a big part of the film was at night. I was curious. So say, what would be the advantage for me as a cinematographer for production value or not, or aesthetic value or not? So you question yourself. So I did some tests at night to compare the both of them.
So what film stock did you end up deciding on?
50-19 and 50-13, I think.
How did you come to that?
I test everything.
Yeah.
So I test lens, film stock, process, push, pull, normal process, and you watch it, and you say, I think that's that's better for the film.
Well, you had a lot of nighttime scenes.
Yes.
I mean, you were in the city at night for quite a bit of it. I mean, a lot of it takes place at night. Dark restaurants.
Yeah. I think the beauty of the film and the process, where I finished with a super speed Panavision lens and pull one stop almost everything.
Can you talk to me about the challenges of filming in New York? I think a lot of people, may not have had that experience in the first place of filming in New York. They may be more familiar with Los Angeles or other cities around the country. But what are some of the challenges about shooting right in Manhattan, right in New York?
It's extremely complicated.
Really? Why? What are some of the complications?
It's very challenging. One because the city gives you a certain permit and certain time, so it's very challenging for that. So the city gives you the permit. I don't remember exactly, but like 3 weeks before to shoot, so you can get the permit. You can have the thing. Oh, we love to shoot there, but they have the idea of red zone to not allow too many shoot, in the same place. So, and after you have to deal with all the shops, the restaurant, all of this, and so you have to go door by door to say, "Can I shoot there?" We're going to shoot there, blah blah blah. And I remember the first day of the shoot, we scout this street, probably a month before, and for the first day of the shoot, and probably 2 weeks before the shoot, the location go to every shop saying, "We're going to shoot there. This is the money. Thank you very much. It's going to be 2 hours." And I one turn, a flower shop was not happy about it. She complained about it, and so she went to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. She said, "I refuse, blah, blah, blah. Nobody can shoot there." And so she put big sign on the street. So we decide just 2 days before the shoot, so we have to shoot on the corner. We can't shoot on the street anymore. Wow. And it was very simple. We have to just Laura walking on the street. Very simple. Very simple. And suddenly you change the idea. And suddenly, so we're going to shoot there. But under the corner, the girls start to put music. And on the middle of the shot, somebody came with a chevalet painting, put a chevalet in the middle of your shoot.
Oh
painting.
My God.
And you say, "Do you mind? We have to shoot that. Do you mind to go to the other side?" No, I want to be there, because you have to let the people whatever they want to do, because it's a free city. Yeah. She didn't want to move it. So on the shot, you have the girl painting with a chevalet. No, but suddenly you say, "That's insane. So why the people need to be so mad?"
Wow. So you weren't shooting in her floral shop.
No,
on the street.
Yes, on the street. Yes.
Wow.
That's New York. That's how New York is rough. So that is very challenging. But the beauty, what I found very difficult, because one of the reference for me was I love the movie Cléo de Saint-Cassette with Agnès Varda. And the beginning of the movie is very beautiful. Is a woman walking in the middle of the street during the 60s. And they have a lot of freedom about it. You can feel she's surrounded with people crossing. And the beauty of Manhattan has the same vibe. You can see when you're in Manhattan, the people crossing in the middle, truck parking, taxi, stopping at this moment and everything. So to give you this alive on film is more difficult. Yeah. Because you have extras. And as soon you want to have people passing in the middle of the street, in the middle of the car, you need to stunt people. You can do alive. So to give this vibe of New York is very complex, because the complexity of the population, the variety of population, the attitude of the people walking on the street is very complex, because you have all this generation and people from coming from all the different countries, makes it super rich. So to put back that on the film, that was a challenge, I would say.
Yeah, to have it feel and look accurate, you need 1 million people. You need a lot of. It needs to be chaos.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be chaos, because that's the beauty of Manhattan.
Exactly, it certainly is. I want to talk to you about your approach to lighting. I mean, there's the film On the Rocks it's so natural looking, it's so real looking. I mean, it doesn't look like a light was placed anywhere. Everything feels incredibly natural. Of course, we all know that's not the case. So I'd love to hear about your strategy and let's maybe just start with exterior, since we've been talking about that for a while. What's your approach to exterior daytime lighting in New York?
For me, overall, in general, on the film, overall, in general, I start to want to be very natural. Whatever we are, interior, night, the exterior, I try to be as natural as possible. So I always avoid, for example, kick. I never do kick in night interior. I never do that. Or it has to be from something very natural. a lamp behind you. So, and after, when you are outside, for me, it depends the place you have. When I was on the Big Al, I was using Dino light with a 3-color blue and big diffusion because I have the space. When you are in New York, it's a small place, so I use Sky Panel 360s or small HMIs. Or it's matter of place and the time you have. But for me, be natural is that's always a challenge for me. That for sure. Yes.
So sky panels outside generally giving you that big kind of soft key.
Yeah.
And then what about interiors? I mean, during let's say evening interiors, there's a lot of shots in restaurants and bars and clubs and things like that. What's your approach to that? Are you more or less sort of lighting the environment practically in a way, like making it look great to the eye, or are you bringing in some additional light just for their faces and their eyes and all that kind of stuff?
I think it, for me, is to give a feeling of depth in general on the image. So it depends really of the location. It's always a mix. I pay always attention to the actor and to the face, how to light the actor. In general, because I think it's very important for the audience. The actor are being lighting properly. On my view, so you are not distracted for that. So they don't have a terrible shadow, or the Laura doesn't look older. That's a good preoccupation for me. And after is just the mood, what's the feeling of the scene. And me as a character, if I was on this scene by myself, I'm wondering what environment I would like to be. Is it intimate? Is crowded? So that approach of the light overall. But I like to respect the feel of the location, and if the location have a problem for me, I try to change it and to give more depth, I would say.
Talk to me about your strategy for lighting faces, though. So, like, when we're looking at a location, you've got your actors on set, what are you looking for in their skin and their eyes? And how are you planning your sort of lighting scheme for that particular scene?
It always depends how wide you want to start, because if you have wide shot, you know that you have to bring the same continuity until the end, until the close-up. So I pay attention to that. So where I'm going to put the light and where. And I like, over general, a lot of diffusion in front of my light. So I pay attention. If I make a decision, I don't stuck at the end to the wrong decision. So I have to plan on myself and how long it's going to take. It's not only for the pre-light or the pre-rigging. It's also when we're going to set up, how long it's going to take for me to do that. And it's not only the face is important, but also the background, the feeling of the scene. So it's a mix of choice. But like I guess so, any cinematographer, I would say, I don't look I would say the set only as a wide shot. I know I'm gonna have an actor in the scene, so I need to pay attention how I'm gonna light them. Because you could do a beautiful light from with no people inside, but as soon you're going to put people and you have an actor and you're going to have close-up, how are you going to manage to do that? That is always a question for me.
Is there an advantage to being able to be a little bit closer in on the talent? Earlier in the interview, you mentioned how both you and Sofia Coppola, the director, decided that you wanted to avoid these big, wide establishing shots and master shots, let's say, or wide master shots.
Yeah.
Is there something kind of more fun? Is there an advantage to that from a lighting standpoint, knowing that you don't have to worry about those wide shots?
For sure. That changes completely the idea of your lighting. Imagine you're in a restaurant, you say, I want to start the door, I'm going to do a tracking, goes passing the people, and they are sitting. So you avoid, of course, a lot of problem, for sure, but for sure, yeah.
Do you enjoy, like, is it more fun for you to do something like that where you don't have to be thinking about a long tracking shot or a super wide shot?
No, I think I love when I was working with Wong Kar-wai. We did a lot of wide shot and master and everything, and so I think it's depends really of the mise en scène of the direction of the director. I think there's some beauty of the master also because you feel the ambience of the place. But if the director doesn't feel they need it, they don't need it. I don't going to push for it. I think because at the end, that a story you have to think. For example, the director like Wong Kar-wai and Sofia Coppola, they are writing their story. So they've been living with the story for months, years, sometimes. So you have to respect the vision of the director. And to bring them on the play, they feel comfortable about it. So you need to show a lot of respect. Compare. I don't say that I don't put respect so people doesn't write a script, but you know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
You know that a story about a woman raising kids and by herself and with an husband absent. That's something deep inside Sofia.
I think that shows a real. There's like an incredible respect there and also restraint in a way. I mean, cinematographers, I can see it even in the work that I do. You almost like want those big wide shots. You want those big establishing shots because you just love the locations. You love the art design. Like you want that from a visual standpoint. And to choose not to do that shows a lot of restraint, I think, for cinematographers in particular.
I think that because you have to, with Sofia, you have to respect, and I think with any director, you have to respect their vision. Me, for example, for a film I shot 6 weeks, I spent 8 weeks on preparation, but the director spent a year to think about it. And of course, as a cinematographer, you can bring idea, different vision, and good surprise, of course. But Sofia, she's good also to say, she doesn't say no, but she say, I would love to be that way. And you have to be respectful for that. Don't try to sell something that she won't be happy about it. Are you going to lose so much time to try to sell something or to do something that at the end she will not be happy about it?
And it's weird too, because when watching the film, you always know where you are. Like you don't really need those wide establishing shots to know where in the city you are. Like something that was kind of unique about it is because you're not constantly reminded of what the exterior looks like or what the large scale space looks like in these restaurants. You almost don't care. And it also makes things feel familiar. Like it could be any restaurant. Like it could be a restaurant you've been to. There's something that makes you more familiar with these environments when they're tighter. You can relate to the home that they live in. You can relate to the restaurants they go to. You can relate to the sidewalk that they're talking on.
Because she doesn't try to sell it.
Yeah.
She doesn't try to sell it very hard something. She wants to make sure you believe this story. That's it. That's her point. So sometimes you have problem of probably of transition, when you're going from one scene to another scene. But it's I will say, is an American point of view overall in general, very traditional point of view about master shot. If you're working with a completely different foreign director with different background and culture, for example, when I was shot with Wong Kar-wai, we never start with a master shot. We start with a close-up. Because for him, for example, the emotion was more important to be treated first and after to try to do a master shot. But do we need to have an established shot overall in general for beginning of each scene? Not necessary. Probably most of the time in America, yes. But for different culture and movie, not at all. So I never on myself push, we need to see where the restaurant is on the city. Frankly, I don't care. If he doesn't bring something to the story, I think it's not important. If you're bringing the feeling of the story. If you give you the feeling for the character, for the emotion of the scene, why not? But I think that's the point. But so that overall, in general, my point of view. So the fact that Sofia doesn't push for it, I'm not going to push for it.
Yeah, I love that. Talk to me about the lens package that you selected for On the Rocks and why.
But it's based on I did a super speed, and most of the time we shoot with 40, 50, 75. I would say 3 lens overall in general. And the super speed, because I love the softness and the quality of the skin, and the highlight and the black I found between the process and the truth of the lens. So, but it depends also what T-stop you shoot them. So, for example, in general, I don't shoot with a strong T-stop. Even the exterior, I shoot between 2.8, the exterior 2.8 and 4, the maximum. But the most of the rest I shoot at T2. So that becomes the look of the film, because it depends. If you shoot a film, this lens at T560, 11 is a completely different lens. It's a completely different texture. So for me, at the end, it's more the texture of the film you get at the end.
Yeah, and so much of the film has very shallow depth of field. You're really being drawn into individual conversations, whether they're across the table at a restaurant or, two moms in line with their kids at school. You really are playing with large spaces, but narrowing the focus into a small section of these large spaces. That was something that I felt when I was watching it.
It probably it may distract people, some people. I don't say I'm right. It may be a problem from some people, but on my vision, I don't see the problem. So it may be a problem from some director, maybe for some audience. But I always try to focus on for the actor but I think I've been fascinating overall in general, and not particularly for this film, but for me is for the painting and the large format photography. In general, they have a very, very shallow depth of field. So I think my love of this, for example, if you think about Caravaggio or Rembrandt, or you've seen the beginning of the 19 color photography. I love texture, and I love shallow depth of field. That make in general my approach of lighting, and of course, each film have a different look, and you have to respect that. And each director have a different vision. But that's my love for what I do. So to make something different, it will be very hard, I would say.
While you were filming, did you know this was an Apple TV Plus film, or was that something that they bought afterwards?
No, the film was supposed to be a release.
Okay. So is there anything that you would have done differently, knowing that it wasn't going to have a theatrical release? Okay.
No, I won't change anything.
Yeah. Well,
I do.
The reason I ask is because when I'm watching this film, I'm watching it, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm watching this on a phone. Like, how unfortunate is that?
I'll kill you.
You know what I'm saying? I know.
No.
It's like I want to see this on the big screen. I mean, at this point during COVID, I want to see anything on the big screen. But I feel like this movie, and just the texture of it, and the fact that it was shot on film, and just the quality of it, it really lends itself to that kind of big screen experience. But with Apple TV Plus, of course, it's made for devices and your TV.
I can't think about when you start a movie how it will be shown, because it becomes so complex at the end. Even as today, for example, I'm talking to you today. we discovered with Damien, my colorist at the mill, who is fantastic, and I did The Big Al with him, and I did La Traviata with Sofia Coppola with him, that he discovered that what you see on your computer is not right on Apple TV for On the Rocks, because the compression was not right. They did a mistake. So tonight is going to be upgrade for something different.
Really?
Yes. So if you have a HDR TV, this is perfect. If you watch on your computer, until now, it was not perfect.
That's so crazy. I mean, it still looked amazing.
Yeah, but thank you. But so I can't control everything. You can't control how is it going to, every Netflix has a compression system, Amazon a different compression system, Apple a different compression system. So you can control that. Even the movie I did with Wong Kar-wai, the Grandmaster, 1 year ago, they put on Netflix and I say, why is so green? I send a still image to Wong Kar-wai. He say, I don't know. So you don't control. And we grade it until the end, but the compression, who's in charge of it, they sell it, how is it going to be this film in 2 years? Who's going to sell it? Apple decide to sell it to somebody else. How do you know them to make sure the compression is right? It's very difficult. That's a huge problem, I will say, in post-production or at the end, because you can give them a very good master. You can control the master, but you control until the end what you're going to see on your iPhone. That's very complicated. And how is it going to see in France? How is it going to see in China? How is it going to see in Asia? You have no idea. So to put on my mind before I start to shoot, where the people going to see it? No.
It could distract you, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to distract. You need to focus on one idea because is on your mindset, So because it will be too complicated.
Well, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think it looked phenomenal on the phone. I mean, I'm looking at it on an iPhone 12 Pro. I mean, it looked incredible.
Good, you have an iPhone 12.
Yeah, exactly. No, but you know what I mean. It's like it just. I think, I'm an older gentleman at this point, and I remember the days of going to the movie theater. And I think that the convenience of Apple TV Plus is perfect. And if you have an amazing TV, it's great. Like I said, it looked incredible on the phone, but just curious if there was something that you would do differently knowing, and it sounds like there isn't. And I like that.
No, because I think it's too complex, because imagine you start your post-production, you start to test, and you say, okay, I need to talk to the people in charge of Apple TV, and how you're going to do the compression, and frankly, at the beginning of your movie, you don't know exactly how the film is going to be.
Yeah,
because it's always the moment you start a movie, the first day of the shoot, and how you finish the movie. I always find you do something different. Because you understand more and more the character of the movie, how you're going to shoot it. They have an evolution on your side, and with the director, and the meaning of the film by himself. So you change. You have an idea, but you have a different idea at the end. So to do some tests, you will spend your life to do some tests, I will say.
Well, you've sparked my curiosity now. Was there something different about how was there something different about the way you shot it, the way you lit it, the way you approached it at the beginning versus the end with On the Rocks?
Probably, yes. I don't remember, but probably. No, it will be very hard to no, because the question. For example, what I did when I did The Big Al, I was using to be able to do the color correction because they scan it, you process the negative, you scan it, and when you scan it, they send you an example of the scan, and you have an iPad calibrated by Technicolor, and you receive the image, and you do the color correction on the image, and the grader do the dailies, and at the end, I have a picture on all the scene, all the close-up, all the wide shot, and everything. So I start to put it together like a storyboard.
Yeah.
The meaning of it. How do I shoot the scene? How is going to be the next scene? How was the previous scene? And you don't shoot in order. But at the end, in the middle of the film, you have a sense of how many wide shots you did, how many close-up you did, how did you shoot it, how did you light it. You start to have a sense, and it's always around there because we talk about it. We don't do master shot. You don't do wide shot, and you question yourself: do I need a wide shot, or do I need more close-up of Laura, for example, or do I miss that? So the question is not only the light, but it's also the tone of the what could be the film, and also on the edit, what would be the rhythm on the edit, and that so that change your mind until the end. What shot you need, how you're gonna light it, and how tight you need to be.
In our last few minutes, I want to talk about the color grading process, your involvement there. I read an article on Kodak's website that you were grading dailies on your iPad every night. So talk to me kind of about the kind of post-production workflow. Film is done now. What was the next step?
Because when I work with Damien, we set up a look at the beginning of the film, so about the color, how natural it has to be, the texture I want to keep. So we go back and forth together with an iPad and the dailies, because I have a monitor at home looking all the dailies every night, calibrated by Technicolor. So at the end, we receive the film, and we try to be consistent. And with the agreement with Sofia about how the film looked like. So it was we scanned 4K, and we spent 2 weeks to do the color correction. But I try in general to avoid any huge change on the color palette, or do a lot of window. I try to be as natural as I can. So for me, I don't diminish the work of Damien, because Damien is excellent and a very accurate eyes for me. But we try to be close as maximum to the dailies, I would say.
So you're in New York right now. Are you on another film project, or what's going on?
I have few projects. One with Sofia, but with one with John Hillcoat. But with the pandemic, it's very difficult to see, how when we can start to shoot properly, and with the freedom we had before. That is a big concern, I guess, for producer and director.
Yeah,
and to have mask and it's complicated to shoot for crew, director, actor. For crowd scene, it's very complex to do actually a scene and a movie, I think. So I would say everything is in standby.
Yeah. Were you in production and you had to stop it, or it's all pre-production?
No, that's very sad for all the people working on the film industry to what's going on, I would say, and not only all of the film industry, but all the cultural industry, the music, the opera, the theater. Yeah. This is extremely sad for all this. But I've been lucky enough to be able to shoot on commercial. But for live performance, it's terrible, I think.
Yeah, it's awful, and there's just no end in sight. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's a horrible time to be in those industries. My God.
Yeah.
Now, do you live in New York, or are you there just for these projects?
No, I'm living in New York. Yeah.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what is life like there for the working cinematographer? I mean, what's life like now? I'm sounding like a lot of people are sort of transitioning to commercials in the meantime.
Me, I was lucky enough to be able to travel to France, to be able to work in France. I work in Kiev. I work in Prague. I work in Lisbon. I've been shooting in California, Utah, Colorado, and everything. I've been very, very lucky to have some work. I didn't shoot in New York yet, but they have the same restriction, and everybody has to behave, in a certain way to make sure nobody's sick on the set. So you have to be tested. And I've been tested already 10 times. But I know people have been tested already, especially in California, like 20 times.
Yeah.
So that's difficult.
Yeah. Of all the places that you filmed in during COVID, where was the easiest? Where was the most difficult?
I think for example, I shot a Chanel commercial in Paris 2 weeks ago with Sofia Coppola. 20% of the crew was positive.
Wow.
So we did a test 72 hours before the shoot. 20% of the crew was positive.
Oh my God.
So I have to replace my AC, my first AC, 1 day before the shoot. The second AC I need to replace of it. It was standby on the set. And I have to replace it in the middle of the day because it was still positive.
Oh.
So AD was positive. Location manager was positive. So that was very, very, very complicated. That was very complicated. And the rule is the same. So it's more about the production overall in general, how they organize the set and the safety and everything. But it is about the behavior of the people. So how you behave. For example, when I arrived in France, I was in New York and everybody have a mask. And when I arrived in France in mid-June, nobody was wearing a mask. And they say, no, the pandemic is still there. So why nobody on the street were not wearing masks? And you see what's going on now in Paris. It's a lockdown again. So there are no surprise about sadly what's going on if the people doesn't pay attention. So I've been shooting. I have the same problem in Prague. The people wearing masks in the shoot, or in Ukraine, the people wearing masks on the set, but nobody on the street. So you're not going to stop the pandemic that way. I found the most serious was probably California.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. And what are people doing? Are you just making sure that your crew is 2 or 3 people deep in each role?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You clean your hand. You always clean your hand. You wash. So yes, you wear a mask. You change your mask.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're doing well and working and keeping going, because it's challenging out there for a lot of us, and it's just encouraging to see that people like you are out there kind of keeping everything moving along.
Yeah, you're welcome. But you have to be. I've been very lucky to be able to work the way I work the last 6 months, because I know some people it's been very, very difficult.
Well, the movie is called On the Rocks. It is on Apple TV Plus right now, and it sounds like there's a whole new compression coming out today. So
yes.
So if you've already seen it, you have to see it again.
Yeah, thank you. You have to see it again. If you look on your iPhone, table people look in the iPhone movie, and on the computer, it's going to look different tonight, hopefully.
Well, another reason to check it out again. Philippe Lesourd, thank you so much for being on Go Creative Show. The film is beautiful, and I'm already looking forward to your next time back on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
All right, I want to thank Philippe Lesourd for coming on Go Creative Show and talking to us all about his work on Apple TV Plus and A24's On the Rocks. I really love this film, guys, and I strongly suggest you check it out. And hey, if any of you already have Apple TV Plus, then head right over there. It's available now. And if you bought any device in the past year, then you have Apple TV Plus. So chances are everybody out there has the opportunity to check out this film, and I suggest you do if you haven't already. I also want to thank our producer, Connor Crosby. You can find him at ignitionvisuals.com. And Matt Russell for mixing, mastering, and making the show sound so great. He and his team over at gainstructure.com can do it for you too. So check them out at gainstructure.com. And of course, all things Go Creative Show at gocreativeshow.com. I also want to thank our sponsors, MZ Education for Creatives and PostLab, stress-free collaboration in Final Cut Pro and Premiere, and encourage you once again to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And of course, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. And with that, we will see you next time on another episode of Go Creative Show, a podcast for filmmakers.